Hi snake lovers! So I thought that I will start with introduction of my snakes that I keep, and I thought what's the better start than the snakes that I have the most of, which are boa imperators or boa constrictor imperator. So they are common boas, and to start off I'll show you Melvin. So this little dude, he's a uh, not wild type, but just wild type common boa, but he's not a locality. He was basically from morph parents, and he came out with a normal pattern. But this is not a specific pattern of some locality or anything really special, because this type of common boa is really like you can find it everywhere. Breeders basically sometimes give them away for free or for just limited money. Actually, for him, I paid about 500 Czech crowns, which is about, well, I'm not really sure, but something along the line of maybe $20. Not really good in converting money. But anyway, so this dude is just a common boa, nothing special, no special morph. I work with a lot of morphs. I have Salmon Jungle, I have an IMG, I have Albino Sharp, I have Colombian Motley as well as Central American Motley. So there are a lot of morphs in my possession. However, they're not like super huge variety, but I like them. So all the snakes that I have, I'm planning on breeding, and I have some breeding projects like the IMG Anery Motley and some snows, some moonglows in the future. But for me, first and foremost, all my snakes are my pets. So I spend a lot of time socializing them, playing with them, hanging out in this snake room of mine. And all of my snakes I raised from tiny babies or hatchlings for my pythons. So the species that I keep are Burmese python, reticulate python, Centralian python, blood python, ball python from the pythons, from the boas, boa imperators, and I also have a corn snake. From time to time, my let's say inventory of species that I keep might shift, but for the most part it stays the same. And the all-time favorite and all-stars in my collections are the boa imperators. If I by any chance in this video use boa constrictor, please forgive me, because it's a common term here. So actually in the Czech Republic we call them Hrozníš královský, or in Slovak we call them Velhad královský, which means something like great snake or royal great snake. And it comes from the older name of these guys. So they are boa constrictor, which is the true red tail boa. Then there are these guys, the common boa. You can see the tail is not red. And these are boa imperators, previously boa constrictor imperator. But one of the first names for these, or there were a lot of scientific names, but one was boa rex serpentum, which means boa the king of snakes. And since the king of snakes stuck on or was popular in Europe, so in Europe we mostly call them royal boas or royal great snakes. The term Hrozníš in Czech Republic, Hrozníš means something like, well, I assume it's from the word hruza, which means terrible, like terrible snake, like frightful snake, but they're not frightful. So these guys are wonderful. They are really sweet. They are spectacular pets. He is about 1 year and 3, maybe 4 months old, so he's still a little snake. He's a male. His name is Melvin, and as you can see, this is just a classic pattern. Nothing special. The tail is brown, so he's not a red-tailed boa by any stretch of the imagination. And I call him the hiss master because he's actually one of my only snakes that hisses a lot, but he does that only when I'm taking him out of the cage or hook train him. All of my snakes are actually hook trained, but when I take him out, I tap him with the hook. When I do that, he hisses. So, little hiss master. But they're great snakes. They are gentle, they are wonderful, and even this pattern, which is like the classic, cheapest non-morph out of the morphs, because technically it's from a morph line, but yeah, it's not a morph. It's just a wild type. Actually, a lot of breeders call them like that they are trash, but they are not. They are awesome animals. This pattern looks great. Really love the pattern. Really love his little cute face. And as you can see. Now what's funny is that these guys are semi-arboreal, so they like to climb. Currently I house them in these tanks, but I will be upgrading them. I will make my own from plastic, so and much bigger. These tanks, they actually look small, but they are 4 feet by let me convert it in my head. It's 120 centimeters, which should be around 4 feet by 60 centimeters by 2 feet, and it's 60 centimeters high. So it's like 4 by 2 by 2, and it's just for this life stage, so they're not that big at this time. They will get big. So the males, and this is a really generalization, because for what the imperators, they are so variable. So you can have guys like this, which we call the Colombian boas. Actually not from Colombia, but like they can be, but nobody knows. There are no locality. They have absolutely no, you cannot trace them back to any state, any locality, anything. Just a mud boa. So these guys can get, for the males, upwards to 2.5 meters, but that's a stretch. I think it's more about, well, in the American measurements, I think it's 6 to 7, maybe 8 feet. Now for the females that I have, they grow larger. So a typical Colombian common boa may get from 7 to 9 feet, possibly maybe 10. They are outliners, and we must not forget that snakes, they grow all their lives. They do not stop growing. They only stop growing when they are deceased. So this guy, who knows how long he will be eventually, but a 4-foot enclosure, it's will not gonna cut it. So I need something bigger, and I'm planning on building him actually 8 foot by 8 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot enclosure, and there will be 6 of them because I have 6 boas, and it will be this wall will be full of those enclosures. But progress is it's in progress. However, since he's small now, we don't need to put him in a bigger enclosure. Of course, glass enclosures are not ideal for boas. I don't know if you can see, but I have like towels on the mesh part, so that the humidity gets trapped a bit. And I found out that the towels actually allow for some ventilation, so it's not that bad like when you put just some plywood on the top, or just plastic without ventilation. It will accommodate much more moisture, and you can have stagnant air, and then the snakes can have respiratory infections. To this day I had no respiratory infections and no illnesses in my snakes, so I think towels work for them as babies or yearlings. This one is not a baby anymore, but he'll get upgraded, bigger enclosure, bigger stuff. And what I began to speak about the imperator size. So there are some imperators which are localities like the Hog Islands, Croaky boas, Pearl Island boas, and these have what's called insular dwarfism. So it means that they are from islands, and on the islands the population shrank over time, so they are really small. So you can have a boa that will be only like 3 to 4 feet. Not the case with this. This is just a mud type boa, so there's no guarantee how long he will be, but he will not exceed like 9 feet, or the females will, I think that in a very rare occasion they get 10 to 11 feet, but I think that's a stretch of the imagination. As you can see, they like to hold on and climb. This guy is lazy as can be, so he's not a very good climber. To be honest, he's so lazy that I don't know how he can even be active at all. So he's healthy. As you can see, his body tone is really good. Boas, they have this square type look to them, so they have this square body shape. They should never be round. Not a good climber. They should never be round. And all of my boas actually hang on really good, climb really good. This little dude is so lazy. He's one of the few boas that do not explore anything. So he likes to sit in his place, he likes to do his stuff. And as a result, I need to take him out more and provide him a little bit of exercise so he gets his muscles stretched a little bit, so he gets a reason to move, to develop his musculature. And I will go through the setups in the next video or unrelated video to the introduction series about my snakes. But as you can see, all of them are with thermostats, heat mats on thermostats. I have like a lot of humidity controllers and also controllers for the cool side of the enclosure. As for misting, I mist mine by hand, but I'm planning on getting some misting systems in time. So anyway, this was Melvin. He has an interesting story that he originally was like considered trash. So the breeder was like, it was about a year ago. The breeder was like, if you want him, well, just keep him. I will not want him anyway because he's normal. And well, I decided to keep him, and it was a good choice because he's a really great pet. Even though he's very talkative at some points, he's huffing, puffing. He never struck at me. Actually, besides my IMG het Annery, who's on the very top enclosure, and my Central American motley female, who's down there, which I will show in the next video, I think that none of my boas ever struck at me in defense mode. Even the female, she struck me as a feeding response, which is completely my fault. But he's a nice snake, he's a good snake, and the name Melvin is because, as you probably do not know, but if you know, good for you, there's a movie, it's a really B movie, but there's a B grade horror movie called Toxic Avenger. And in Toxic Avenger there's a guy who's like ugly duckling, and his name is Melvin. Then he becomes the Toxic Avenger. It's a silly horror movie, but yeah, so this is why he's called Melvin. Really love his tail. And honestly, the boa morphs, they get a lot of hype, and I get that. I love my morphs. I especially love my sharp albino male. I love my IMG. I love my female, which is like, I love all my snakes, but I mean, just to see the Colombian motley with her regular clean pattern, and she's Annery as well, so she's Colombian Annery motley het VPI. The VPI doesn't really contribute to the Colombian, but yeah, there are no localities, so the Colombian type, it refers here in Czech Republic more to the pattern style and the potential to grow them to a locality. So none of them are actually like pure Colombians. That's not the case. but she's from that region, like from the origin, whereas the Central American are more from the Mesoamerican, you know, the yeah, like Mexico and these parts. And the pattern is different, so when I will show you the comparison between CA and CO motley, you will see the pattern difference. But these snakes are highly praised morphs here, so not the motleys, but like the IMG. There's a really great craze in IMGs, and when I will produce IMG honorary motley babies with Nox and with Molly, people want them. But just to appreciate the simplicity and the beauty of a snake like this, I think you cannot beat it. It's really beautiful. It's a really great snake. It's a really nice animal, and it's cheap, so it's affordable for people to start with boas. And yes, I believe boas are great snakes to start because they are slow, they are gentle, and unlike ball pythons, well, they get considerably bigger than ball pythons, but unlike ball pythons, which pose mostly absolutely no troubles, these can be grumpy as babies, and it's excellent because the grumpiness will teach you how to handle a defensive snake or a snake who's scared. And I think that's a really good experience to see a little snakelet which is scared and frightful, and you show him that, or her, that the snake can trust you, and you build that trust from the ground up. Most boas are docile from the get-go, so none of them are actually really aggressive. Well, none of them are aggressive. No snake is aggressive, but none of them are really defensive as babies, but some can. So it's a little bit more challenging than the ball python, and I think that's a good way. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Next time I will show you another one of my snakes. So this is my first boa. Have a great day. See you next time, maybe, if you like this video. I love your snakes.